I want to start first of all with your work with Spike Lee, your wonderful movies that you made with him, and obviously your collaboration with him first began with School Days. So I wondered, how would you describe that first experience working with him?
It was very enjoyable. Spike was really at the beginning of his career, so to speak, in a large way, because that was his first bigger movie. He had done Joe's Bedside Barbershop. We had planned to do a film called The Messenger, about a bike messenger, which Spike had done a little bit of that in New York and was obsessed with bike messengers, and we never were able to make that movie. So School Days was our first triumph together, and I loved the script that he wrote for that because it was a musical, and there's very different ideas. Spike really connected to music and really loved music, and also wanted to write it into his film, which I thought was really pretty incredible.
Mookie! What? How come you ain't no brothers up on the wall?
Man, ask Sal, right?
Do the Right Thing, I think, is rightly seen as one of the greatest films ever made. And I wonder, how do you feel about the film's lasting legacy, but also what kind of stands out to you most about that time making it?
Well, the film we made at that time, it was a time in New York that was very turbulent, with Tawana Brawley, Al Sharpton protesting in the streets against what happened to her. Was it true or not was a big question. The racial tension in New York was really palpable. You could really taste it and feel it. Spike took that opportunity to write a script that was very poignant about people in a neighborhood in Brooklyn, which now doesn't exist anymore. It's completely gentrified and completely different. So he was dealing with issues in the film of gentrification and of that kind of committed state where African Americans would have the opportunity, black people, to speak up for themselves. And the film is completely relevant today and completely timely, amazingly enough. So I would say it's one of the American classics of film, of a film legacy by Spike Lee that just keeps building and growing. What a brilliant man to be able to move us forward, and to know him for close to 40 years now is really quite amazing. To kind of cut my teeth with him and grow up with him. He gave me the opportunity to be on the big screen in film after film, where I had done a couple of films and a lot of television, but never had the opportunity to see myself in the roles that he created and gave to me, and that I was able to extend through the talent, my God-given talent. It's been a wonderful journey to be with Spike.
You worked on 4 films back-to-back with him, so I wondered, what do you feel like sets him apart as a director, but also was there anything that you learned from him during your time with him that you've kind of taken and used in your career since then?
I love the way he directs, because it's almost like in the early days he directed like he was the coach of a sports team, and so that kind of enthusiasm appeals to me. That to really get out there and to do your best really appeals to me. What I think he's become is a more gentle collaborator in hearing ideas and receiving comments back about original scripts that he may have written, and then having the ability to really execute what he really thinks and believes, because I pay a lot of attention to the writer's work and honoring what they've written. And then I love being directed. And sometimes as you become more experienced, that director is less apt to direct you, but more wanting to be in conversation with you to get the best from you, to render the script the best it can be. And I love that.
I believe we're alike in that way. If you are who I think you are, you should give me another chance.
I don't think we're alike at all, Mr. White.
Gus Fring is one of the most iconic villains of all time, but I've seen you've spoken before about wanting to make him more than just a villain of the week once you were offered a permanent role on the show. I wondered, what was kind of the moment or scene where you felt like you achieved that?
I think the moment or scene that I achieved being more than just a villain of the week, I think is 401, Box Cutter. What a powerful scene that is. I mean, I love theater, and I love, that the Pinter pause, which is really important to me, to be able to leave space, which is what I kind of modeled Gus's practice as, leaving space to really be attentive to his employee who's telling him, who he's teaching how to clean the fryer. down to the way you treat customers. He leaves space to allow for someone to learn, and that was important to me. So the moment in 401 Box Cutter is really the first moment you ever saw Gus do something reprehensible with his own hand. And I thought that was really strong for me, because it's a scene with very few lines. Nothing is said in that scene until the very end of that almost 10 minutes, where he says simply, "Get back to work," after he cuts Victor's throat, changes back and changes his clothes, and walks out of that lab, thus sending a dual message to both Walter and Jesse. Do what I'm telling you to do.
People either survive in the jungle or exist in the zoo.
Obviously, Gentle marked your first time working with Guy Ritchie. He's known for his, incredible visuals, his sharp script, his sharp suits. And I wondered, for you, how did you find that experience working with him on this?
I welcome the experience of working with Guy Ritchie. I know that I invited it into my life, having just rewatched or thought. I actually was sitting there thinking about Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels when I called my manager and said, I really want to work with Guy Ritchie, not having any idea he was planning anything. And 2 days later, we get a call saying Guy Ritchie just is going to make a series of The Gentleman, and he wants to talk to you about it. He'd love you to be in it. I was honored. I love what he does as a filmmaker visually. I love what he does musically with the score. I love what he does sartorially with all the clothing and the dress. I was in right away because I love The Gentleman as a movie, and I think that the television show renders the movie in a way, it extends it and is as good, if not better, and completely different. You don't have to watch the movie to know, to get to know the TV series, because they're two different stories, but they're similar in their concourse. So Guy, to me, is another one of those very rich and directors and full of depth that is collaborative, but wanting to say something about society and how we live. Not only today, but how we did yesterday and where we come from. And because my character, Stanley Johnston, represents kind of the historical knowledge of the piece in many ways. In other words, he's an American who, and the only American in the piece, who really knows about British history, and the aristocracy, and talks about the criminality that they laid down for everyone to follow. Like they basically stole everything, and I love that he, in a way, sort of uncovers what would be a myth, but it's not. If you really look at history, it is kind of how it played out, and so he tells this in a very authentic, modern day way that I think is really quite genius, and it's fun, and it's funny, yet it's edgy, and it's frightening, yet it's vulnerable. And it's the story of family all in one, and loyalty and brotherly love and all of those things. So I feel like it contains such a rich backdrop of what we live through in our daily lives that it's applicable. Now, not all of us are, have the courage to go and, be criminals, but that idea is that, if we did, of course our lives would be very different, but it would also bring on all the complexity and all the problems that you draw to yourself when you live and move through that world.